Today we're discussing what do you wear after surgery and how close to death are you? Last week I went over to Ireland to Westport to visit the Allergan Botox factory, which is the only factory in the world for Allergan branded Botox, which was really cool, as you can imagine, and we got to see the whole process. I can't wait to tell you all about what happened while I was over there, but we're going to have to save that for another week because this week we are talking about post-surgical garments. And first of all, let's go to I'm not getting paid to say this. So a couple of months ago, I had a liposuction procedure. Ooh, very controversial. And I was asking myself, what exactly am I going to wear after I've had my surgery? Because if you look at the majority of post-surgical garments, they're not exactly flattering. You know, they're kind of a bit like Return of the Mummy style. A lot of them are beige and just a little bit, you know, not very sexy. So imagine how thrilled I was when I came across this company called Vo here. And they have got literally the cutest post-surgical garments that I've ever seen. So this is my genuine post-liposuction garment. Check eBay later for a bargain, ladies. And you can see it's got these a hole for the legs, because I did have a little bit of fat removed from the inner thighs, although it wasn't a huge amount. The front portion here has got 3 different sizes on it, so you can have it like really tight or a little bit looser. But the most exciting part is on the back of this. So if I just turn it over, you can see that there's this really cute little mesh detailing here, which I thought was quite nice. And then in the bum area, there's mesh here too. So I had a tiny bit of fat transferred to my backside. And the reason why it's mesh is to stop there from being too much pressure in this area, which would decrease the chance of fat survival there. So I don't know, I thought that was amazing. So I wore this for probably about 2 weeks, which is not exactly what the surgeon recommended, but it was literally the height of summer and I'd had enough, so I just took it off. There's not a huge amount of evidence, as far as I'm aware, for post-surgical compression. I think the results that you will get after about 6-12 months are probably about the same, whether you wear your compression or not. And yes, I did check on PubMed, which is this website which correlates all medical papers together, for that before I took that step. This is another item from Vo. It's these really cute cycling shorts, which I was going to wear, but then I didn't. So if you've had lipo to the thigh, or maybe you've had a BBL, because you can see on here as well, there's a bit of a mesh on the backside area so that it doesn't compress your fat quite as much. They market these as anti-cellulite and slimming garments, but really I think they're suitable for stage 2 post-surgery. So stage 1 would be a garment like this, which is kind of quite heavy duty and it gives you good compression, whereas stage 2 is something that you switch to after about, well, you're supposed to switch to after about 2 to 4 weeks, and it's a little bit less compressive. This would be under the title of a stage 2 garment as well. So this is a Macom waist trainer, and because I had a lot of lipo done on the tummy, I did wear this for a little bit longer, just to try and keep my swelling down. By the way, that's the whole point of wearing a post-surgical garment. It's to give compression to that region so that you don't get as much swelling and edema, and you'll be able to fit into your clothes a lot more easily if you do wear the compression garment, and at least that's something that I noticed as well. I know a lot of people are wearing these waist trainers as a thing these days. I don't necessarily think that's a great idea to wear one all the time, because you're going to reduce your core muscle strength because you're not using those muscles. These come in beige. I know I just totally slated the idea of wearing beige, but if you're wearing a lighter colour, obviously you can't wear black underneath white, just doesn't look right. And they do come in a red as well if you're feeling a little bit raunchy. And the Vo items come in a beige, at least most of them do, as well as the black. but I don't know, I quite like the black. I thought it was quite simple and actually quite flattering. So now let's talk about how close to death I am. Recently, I've been more and more interested in looking at my own health, and one of the tests that I did was a blood test called a telomere test, which is a direct measure of how well you're aging. Pretty interesting stuff. So let's just talk first about what exactly a telomere is and what it means to do a test of those weird sounding things. A telomere is the bit of DNA that you'll have at the end of your DNA strand. So they're like caps or shoelaces at the end of each bit of DNA that you've got. And as you age, or as you subject your body to environmental insults like pollution, smoking, lack of exercise, what have you, they become shorter and shorter and shorter. And that's a big deal because the shorter they are, the closer you are to something called the Hayflick limit, which is the maximum number of times that a cell can divide. And if your telomeres are too short, then that cell can't divide anymore. So in a normal human cell, the Hayflick limit will be about 40 to 60 times, which means that it can divide 40 to 60 times before it reaches the maximum number of times that it can divide. And interestingly, do you remember years ago, there was that sheep called Dolly who was a clone and she died quite prematurely? It's because the mitochondrial telomeres that she had were very short. So they were given to her from an adult sheep. So they were much shorter than they normally would have been. Anyway, so when you are conceived, you have quite long telomeres. So they're about 15 kilobase pairs. And then when you're born, they go down to about 10 kilobase pairs, just in that very short space of time. When you die, your kilobase pairs are about 3 to 5. So you can see that over time, these little caps on the end are just getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. So I have two kits that I'm going to show you now. The first one is from a Spanish company called Lifelength, and this is basically a blood collection kit. The other one is from an American company called Telomeres. And there is one more company called SpectraCell who also do telomere tests. They're all slightly different. So I went with the Lifelength one for my test because they measure the median of all your telomeres. So they measure the median of all your telomeres. So if you can imagine, they look at the one which is in the middle of the range, whereas the SpectraCell test measures the mean of the length of the telomeres. And actually Lifelength also look at what percentage of your telomeres are short. So there's a lot of evidence now to suggest that it's actually the percentage of short telomeres that makes a difference, rather than, you know, just having all of them that are kind of a middle length. That's better than having some which are really long and some which are really short. So in here, we've got it's just a very simple blood collection kit, that's all. So you just have your blood taken into that tube there. We've got a little pack which is for ice, because all these tests have to be shipped over to Spain. And there is a questionnaire as well, which you have to fill in regarding your lifestyle. You know, do you smoke? How much exercise do you take? That kind of thing. And this is the test that I did, and I'm going to show you my results in a moment. Another test which is available, but not actually in the UK, but I just thought it was kind of interesting for you to see, is the telomeres test. So instead of having a proper blood sample taken, this is just a little one. You know, the lancets that people with diabetes, for example, will use on the pad of the finger to test their sugar level. This is one of those. It's an American company. Unfortunately, they don't ship to the UK at the moment, but hopefully they will do at some point in the future. So before I reveal to you my blood test results, I'm just going to share with you a few problems that are associated with having short telomeres. So people with cardiovascular disease have got shorter than normal telomeres, and that would be anything from having atherosclerosis, so plaque inside the blood vessels, to having, I don't know, heart failure, or anything to do at all with having heart disease. People who have got HIV or hepatitis or Epstein-Barr virus or even cytomegalovirus have shorter than average telomeres. Interestingly, people who are Caucasian, in comparison with people from African countries, have got shorter telomeres also. Those who are under stress, so whether that be night shift work or having other psychological stresses, shorter than average telomeres. People who've got high cortisol levels, shorter than average telomeres. Those who are depressed, even people who have been instituted as a child, shorter than average telomeres. Those who sleep poorly, people who smoke, people who drink alcohol, those with diabetes, people with cancer, people with rheumatoid arthritis, inflammatory bowel disease, pretty much everything that you can think of which results in a disease state, apart from endometriosis actually, is associated with having a shorter than average telomere length. So, okay, let me just show you exactly what I found out when I got my test results back. So when I got my blood test results back, I was like, oh my God, I literally cannot believe this, because they gave me a biological age of 43.5, which is definitely not how old I am. I'm 35 and a bit. So that was actually pretty shocking and quite an interesting wake-up call for me. You can see on the video now, this is a graph of my results. You see that little bit there where it says that I'm in the 6th percentile, meaning that 6% of people my age have got shorter telomeres than I do. And you can see that little bar above there where it shows that my median length of telomeres is 10.1 kilobases. So that puts me in the short range. Not great, not great. So what am I going to do to save myself and perhaps you along with me in the process? Rather boringly, I'm going to give you a list of things that we probably all already know about, which are associated with being healthy. They would be things like fish oil, exercising regularly, having a Mediterranean diet, having sufficient vitamin D intake. There is one thing which you may or may not have heard of called TA65, which is made from a plant called astragalus. It's a Chinese herb, and that's been also shown to reactivate telomerase, which is something that I forgot to tell you about before. So telomerase is the enzyme which helps to make your telomeres a little bit longer. So when you're born, your telomerase is turned off in most of your cells, except in sperm and egg cells. So this TA65 manages to switch it back on again, and it can, in some cases, make your telomeres grow a little bit. Another thing that can help to make the telomeres get a bit longer is something called the Dean Ornish program. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's basically I hesitate to use the word scheme because it sounds a little bit nefarious, but it's a scheme where it involves a plant-based diet, rather boringly, exercise, stress management, and having a weekly support group as well, and that's been shown to increase telomere length. There is one thing which you unfortunately can't change, which also increases telomere length, and that is being born female. So congratulations, ladies. Okay, so that's it for this week. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe to the channel. Comment below, let me know how long your telomeres are or aren't. Let me know about your post-surgical garments as well, and I'll see you again next week.